So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many thousands face the same challenges every day and solve them with Globus. So what's Globus? So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. So how can you get started using Globus? Anyone can use Globus right now for free to transfer files between Globus-enabled systems. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data. With Globus, you can easily share your data without having to move it or copy it. With Globus, subscribers can easily move and share. And if you have any more questions about Globus, visit Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. If this sounds familiar, you're not alone. Many thousands face the same challenges every day and solve them with Globus. So what's Globus? So what's Globus? It's a secure, reliable service. With the Globus platform, you can easily incorporate robust capabilities. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. More than 150,000 registered users rely on Globus. And if the data is sensitive, no problem. Globus can be used to manage protected data.
Yo. What up, though? How are we doing today? How are we doing today? How are we doing today? Cover the news real quick. Still not involving myself in the goddamn discourse. Republicans are a shit show, and muted Elon Musk earlier today on Twitter, and I feel pretty good about that. Done. See? Easy peasy. Your boy is tired for some reason. I got coffee. It's backwards. It says chaos, panic, disorder. My work here is done. And yet I am still tired. So it may or may not be a short one today. We're gonna get through the content and see where we are at that time. We will not be talking to Universal Discourse today. I assume they are still sick since they did not contact me back, such as life. We hope for their speedy recovery, and we look to try and talk to them next week. Tomorrow, we'll be talking to the Algae Christ, Greg, the peer review. So that's going to be super cool. And then Friday we got Corey Campbell. And then on Saturday I am going to be on Stonercast. So I will not be streaming that, but if you want to check that out, I will be on it. Along with like Cosmopolitics, James from the Internet, Jenny Burns, who was on here the other day, and Mix Medi B, early friend of the channel, and I think someone else who I don't recall, but I don't know. So we get to hang out with people, we get to meet new people. Sounds like fun. This is called fun. Mandatory stop. You know, have permission to go. Okay, so the alignment problem. Today we're going to talk about the history of the internet eventually. But right now, what we're going to talk about is what I learned today reading The Alignment Problem. It's a variety of interesting facts on their own, then combined together in the context. It's really indicative. Cool. Definitely let me know what you think, Alina. Yeah, that's. I drive my son to school. It takes a minute, so it's the perfect thing for the ride back. I don't know what that is, but I approve of sacred mushrooms, and I guess I could Google it, right? Sacred mushroom in the cross, a study of the nature and origins of Christianity within the fertility cults of the ancient Near East. That sounds dope. Yeah, that sounds dope as shit. Yeah, there's something I remember reading something a while back. Of Let me make sure I got this right. Yeah, ergot or ergo. You got a pronunciation? You don't. Um, the psychoactive fungus that changed history. Since humans first began cultivating cereal grains such as wheat, rye, barley, and oats, they have been susceptible to. We're going with ergot poisoning. The fungus has devastated crops and European societies for many centuries. Ergot poisoning is a proposed explanation for bewitchment. Most historians today believe that the witchcraft trials that led to thousands of deaths and burnings at the stake in Europe during the Dark Ages were likely related to outbreaks of ergot poisoning. The unfortunate victims of the Salem witch trials also exhibited symptoms of ergot poisoning. Ergotism is rare today due to careful screening of cereal grains. But also like that that may have some stuff to do with like the revelations because dude like bugged out on ergot and tripped out, right? Like, and if you trip out, you could see some shit like that, seven-headed dragons and whatnot. So, maybe, maybe, maybe. There's definitely a at least what you call it, your boy is tired. An associated relationship within our storytelling of the consumption of hallucinogens with things like vision quests and things like that, and it's a very simple explanation. If you eat this and you trip out, then you could feel closer to your deity. So, could be. What up, Grampy? When I get through this and maybe do some more research on it, maybe we could chat about 100%. Absolutely would love to talk about that. Love to talk about anything, but that is a good one. So, to get back on track, this was a fact that I learned today in a book about machine learning. Um, Frederick Douglass is the most photographed man of the 19th century. Over 160 photographs he's taken, right? Um, and he saw photography as a tool for creating an image of black manhood in America that was neither funny nor damaging, as many depictions of African Americans were at the time. Um, there's like there's this whole quote by him talking about how um that depictions of African Americans were done by white folks were tended to exaggerate certain characteristics, and that photography was going to be a great tool for that, um, because it was like a more direct representation. And then associated with that was W.E.B. Du Bois talking about how more black folks should get involved in photography, right? Because the nature of the different skin tone, um, you have to be able to appreciate that. In order to appreciate that, you have to see it more consistently in order to accurately represent it through the photographic mediums. Um, which something that never occurred to me, right? Like, was how the nature of photography, not the subject and not the photographer, but the equipment itself has certain variables in it that are inherently let me there I are. Certain variables in it that are inherently skewed in a particular racial direction, right? Like the equipment itself has a problem, but it's not a problem with the equipment. It's a problem with the people who created the equipment. Because this is a Shirley card, right? These, excuse me. What's her name? Shirley. Shirley. I apologize. It's rude. Surely something I will find out. The point is that in order to calibrate your camera and to calibrate your film, back when we did film, if you haven't ever done actual film development, anything like that, you would capture the pictures on the film and then you had to develop it through use of particular chemicals. Those chemicals would bring out particular parts of the picture. You had to put it through a few different chemical baths and then rinse it and then let it dry, and it was a whole thing. But they were calibrated to white skin and normal, right? Like this is a Shirley card. This is how you would calibrate the camera and the film itself and the development process in order for those things to match. So you've introduced, because of the functions of society at that time, you introduced a component to the system of photography that is going to produce a racial bias. Right? This is when people talk about like how like even beyond institutionalized, you know what I mean? Like institutionalized is like the yeah, like it is it it is a component because you've set the normal at some previous point in time to be this, then it makes it so that everything produced from that is going to have that bias, which in turn is going to produce additional results that influence the normal, the standard, right? And then eventually, when they figured it out, then they changed the Shirley cards to add like multiple ethnicities of women. Yeah, well, see, that's the thing. We're going to get to that in a second. Yeah, color girls. Like this was the thing that in television, right? Like when television, even when it was black and white, you still had to do the color balancing of the cameras, and the model in the color balancing is always white. So the color balancing of the camera is always balanced towards white folks. Um, this is this is something that used to appear on TV screens because you could adjust this shit on your own TV. Like if you go and find an old black 19-inch TV, um, over the air with the two antennas and the whole nine, then you can then this means something in that regard. Movie I Am Dolomite actually delved into this issue a little. I missed that portion. I did see that. You talk about the Eddie Murphy biopic of Dolomite, kind of biopic. Yeah, that was a hell of a movie. But I missed that particular point. Um, yeah. So this was a thing, and this was a thing like that didn't go away. Um, Anytime recently, like only like not that long ago, the author Brian Christian, in talking with people who calibrate the cameras for Saturday Night Live, said that the model was always white. Right now, there have been some changes. I'm not using the broad brush to see who has and has not made those adjustments, but um, that is at least a thing for a significant amount of the time that we've been generating photographs and video. So, and that's, if you look at this picture of Frederick Douglass, the background has a lot of, similar color characteristics to his face. And that is going to, like, the whatever the background is in a photograph affects the subject in the foreground. You can change a picture's visual impression by changing the background on it. That's why one of the things they do with kids nowadays is when they take their school pictures, they don't do it. When I was a kid, they would pull down a screen and take your picture, right? Like, and there was a background there, generic backgrounds. Now they use a green screen and then they can Photoshop in whatever kind of background that you want. So you can make adjustments to make the picture look better, so to speak. But all these factors are what AI and machine learning is drawing from for its data set. And this is what the chapter that I'm in on the book. And this is the thing is he says something and I want to listen to it a few times and then I'm taking notes. And it's like I need to also get a physical copy of it in order to do like highlight and tagging these pages. Because there's a lot that I am bypassing in the book because there's just a lot of information. And so far, it's not dense that it's not, it's much more accommodating than Superintelligence was. You know, it much more approachable as a book than Superintelligence. But yeah, it a hell of a thing. So one of the things that he's talking about in the book is like, okay, you've got this data set. The data set is used to create the machine learning. The machine learning is then put into a piece of software, and that software could easily become the standard. And once it becomes the standard, then it proliferates, right? You know, in the internet, I could just download some software from the site, blah, blah, blah. And this is when, like, not that long ago, we were having those problems with the way that facial recognition software was working with black people, right? And there was and I don't have her name handy, but there was someone working on a facial recognition software for it should be it. Hold on. Robot plays peekaboo. Made a robot that played peekaboo. I'm aware of Better Off Ted. I don't think I really saw it. No, this is Alonso Martinez. That is not. See? Here we go. Coded bias. This is her. I don't know if this is her in this picture. Hold on. I will give you the thing. Oh, she's the actress in this movie. Coded Bias. Joy Story. Okay, so Joy. Where's Joy's last name? Or is that her? Where's her fucking last name, dudes? Well, this computer saying Joy. We're not doing her last name here. Joy, 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 joy. Oh, it's right there, dumbass. Joy, Whoa, Lamwini. I would have to listen to it again. She created a piece of she didn't create the facial recognition software. She downloaded the facial recognition software in order to use it for this robot that will play peekaboo. And there was some kind of problem. It wasn't working right, but her roommate was able to get it to work right, so it was fine. And then she went to it was like an exposition or something like that, and people were using the facial recognition software to apply a filter, right? And it was a filter of a lion. It would make you look like a lion. And it wouldn't work for her until she put on a white mask. Like, it's so fucking on the nose, it's not even funny. But it's a problem that exists within the I gotta see this movie. 2021. Okay, it should still be up there. It's a problem that exists within your data set, right? Like the way, like with the CGP Grey training algorithms videos, you input your data set and then run the processes and do it as many times as you need to in order to produce the outcomes that you want. And then if you don't pay attention to what might be missing from your data set, you end up with gaps and holes in it that create situations like this, where because there hasn't been enough input of images of black folks, or no, however you would do it to clarify that Asian people are not blinking, then you are going to get data, you're going to get results from those data sets that show you like very specific outcomes, very biased outcomes. And this, like, because of the nature of the software that was being used for facial recognition, it was already spread out. It was the one that people were generally using, right? Like, does it work? It works. Great. Boom. Gonna get it. And so Joy ended up using this, and it didn't work for her because of a problem with the data set. And this is going to continue to be an issue the longer we don't address those, those data sets. And the problem that you're going to run into automatically is that we're talking about, like, for Midjourney, is like, was it 1.5 billion images or something? Some ridiculous number of images. Who's going to look through the 1.5 billion images to determine whether or not, like, there's, an adequate reflective display of images that meet the characteristics that are being assigned to them, right? Like with the problem with the art of if you type in beautiful, you end up with, white women. And if you want those other characteristics, you have to be more specific in order to get them. Which is going to continue to occur unless we figure out a solution to that. And unfortunately, the only solution to that is to hire people to do it. You would have to have people manually going through the pictures. And now you are incorporating a different kind of potential bias into your mix, right? Because now, what are the personalities of the people who are reviewing the pictures, right? I guess there was something that Amazon did along this, where you would get paid like pennies a click to analyze some kind of data, right? But it's that kind of thing. It would be interesting. Like, I mean, it's something that you could theoretically do. Yeah, exactly. Like, you like assign some attributes to it, right? or you get a list of attributes and you click 3 of them that apply to the picture, or something of that nature. And then allegedly, like in the aggregate, you would get your distribution would be such that you could assign values to the image, but you can't do it without an interpreter for the computer. Someone has to take the time manually to tell the computer what these things are. We have to go back to basic principles, and they're just not going to fucking do that. They're going to play at the edges to try and get acceptable outcomes, and sunk cost fallacy. How do we know I wouldn't just reproduce the same bias? Well, this is the thing. Is the idea is that you need enough people. Like, here's one image, and you have like 1 million people look at it and assign it these characteristics. And then whatever the distribution on those characteristics is, would be the ones that were assigned. So with a sufficiently large enough number, you can reduce the individual bias to a minimum, right? But there's a whole bunch of shit you would have to control for, like, like the issues with polling, right? Where people call a home landline to ask poll questions. And you have to call people who have a landline. This is going to distribute naturally towards older folks, right? Because no one but older folks actually has a landline anymore. So your polling number is going to be off in that regard. Could we make an AI that does it? Well, this is the problem. Like, how do you start? How do you... Who catches the captures? Right, exactly. Oh. And here's another interesting thing. In 1973, they basically, the market and the people who signed research dollars and all that basically determined that machine learning was dead and was never going anywhere. And this is another issue with the redistribution of resources around research and development and making it competitive in the way that it is, right? When, like, okay, so talking with Professor Q, we're talking about he'll write the papers and the other person will do the grant writing, right? Because it's the grant writing that is going to get the funding. So when you're looking at that kind of situation, whoever controls the resources for that your research is in any way relying on is who you have to appeal to. So you have to phrase words just properly in order to go down a particular line of research. If the funding people don't like what you're doing, then like in 1973, all that money dries up, and and only the people in love with the game are going to continue to do it to get that next breakthrough. Now, you could make an argument that sort of survival of the fittest driven by passion is going to produce superior outcomes, but I don't, right? Because there are a lot of caveats that have to go into that kind of thing. It's like the number of Einsteins who, spent their entire lives working in the fields, right? Like, these people had ideas and creativity, and had they had opportunity and resources, then they could have provided us with a lot of things that could have advanced human civilization in some fashion. And the same is true of what gets funded, right? Like, if you want military funding, which the internet and a bunch of internets that have come before the internet, like AlexNet and things like that, these were funded by the military. So it has to have some form of military application in order to get that funding. I guarantee, like, I got $10 in my pocket. I'll put $10 on a bet that there is some really, really quality, life changing technology that nobody knows about, not because of some weird government cover up or anything, but simply because dude doesn't have any funding or ability to project their voice, you know? Like going on Twitter and saying, hey, I got this great idea for this whatever. Good luck. You know? I think I'm going viral when I got 38 likes on my tweet, right? Like, I mean, that's, you know. So everything gets skewed by the filters and has to run through. And there is a financial incentive to be the best, but there is a higher financial incentive to be first and to be the standard, right? I don't have to be the best if I'm the standard. If I can create the model that everyone uses, then I'm going to make all the money. And even if there are better options out there, I got all the money. I got all the resources. So whatever I'm doing, Elon Musk, right? Like it came down, they wanted to build high-speed rail. He said, no, boring. We're going to drill a hole. It'll be super cool. And so he got all the funding. And now they don't have a hole and they don't have high-speed rail. I don't have a solution for that one. I mean, I do, but it's high-minded, high-level shit, not like a practical way that we could change those things. Yeah. Yeah, no, like, I mean, for real, like, I got a solution. Let me go hit the lottery real quick, get some like $300 million. I'll fund a whole bunch of shit, right? You know, my idea of getting people from all these disciplines to hang out and work, I'll pay them $50K a year for like, like if I get 10 people at $50K a year, that's $500K. So like, I dropped $6 million on it, then I got like 12 years. Fund me, yo. Give me that sweet lottery money. Yeah. So all right, so it kind of dovetails into what we're going to talk about. I had a choice between an 8-minute video and a 2-hour video. And like originally I'm like, no, I can't just play 2 hours worth of video. Like I'm not Zach App, right? Like you can't just bust out a 2-hour video and hang in the back. And then your boy was tired, and I was like, maybe I should just bust out the 2-minute video or 2-hour video. Oh, but no, we're gonna do the 8-minute video, and I might find another one. I didn't pre-watch Andy this, so we're watching it together. And if it's not good enough, I'll find a better one for us.
The Internet in the year 2009. We send email.
Yes, that was one thing I noticed. This video is from 13 years ago. So take that into consideration with everything we're about to get.
Emails, make calls over the internet, and discuss topics we take an interest in. Even our banking is going virtual. But what we take for granted today was only a vague idea 50 years ago. In order to understand how we got this far, let's go back to 1957, when everything began. Before 1957, computers only worked on one task at a time. This is called batch processing. Of course, this was quite ineffective. With computers getting bigger and bigger, they had to be stored in special cooled rooms. But then the developers couldn't work directly on the computers anymore. Specialists had to be called in to connect them. Programming at that time meant a lot of manual work, and the indirect connection to the computers led to a lot of bugs, wasting time and fraying the developers' nerves. The year 1957 marked a big change. A remote connection had to be installed so that the developers could work directly on the computers. At the same time, the idea of time sharing came up. This is the first concept in computer technology to share the processing power of one computer with multiple users. On October the 4th in 1957, during the Cold War, the first unmanned satellite Sputnik 1 was sent into orbit by the Soviet Union. The fear of a missile gap emerged. In order to secure America's lead in technology, the US founded the Defense Advanced Research Project Agency in February 1958. At that time, knowledge was only transferred by people. The DARPA planned a large-scale computer network in order to accelerate knowledge transfer and avoid the doubling up of already existing research. This network would become the ARPANET. Furthermore, 3 other concepts were to be developed, which are fundamental for the history of the Internet. The concept of a military network by the RAND Corporation in America. The commercial network of the National Physical Laboratory in England. And the scientific network Cyclades in France. The scientific, military, and commercial approaches of these concepts are the foundations for our modern Internet. Let's begin with the ARPANET, the most familiar of these networks. Its development began in 1966. Universities were generally quite cautious about sharing their computers. Therefore, small computers were put in front of the mainframe. This computer, the Interface Message Processor, took over control of the network activities, while the mainframe was only in charge of the initialization of programs and data files. At the same time, the IMP also served as interface for the mainframe. Since only the IMPs were interconnected in a network, this was also called IMP subnet. For the first connections between the computers, the Network Working Group developed the Network Control Protocol. Later on, the NCP was replaced by the more efficient Transmission Control Protocol. The specific feature of the TCP is the verification of the file transfer. Let's take a short detour to England. Since the NPL network was designed on a commercial basis, a lot of users and file transfer were expected. In order to avoid congestion of the lines, the sent files were divided into smaller packets, which were put together again at the receiver. Packet switching was born. In 1962, American Ferret aircraft discovered middle and long-range missiles in Cuba, which were able to reach the United States. This stoked fear of an atomic conflict. At that time, information systems had a centralized network architecture. To avoid a breakdown during an attack, a decentralized network architecture had to be developed, which, in case of loss of a node, would still be operative. Communication still used to work through radio waves. That would have caused problems in case of an atomic attack. The ionosphere would be affected and the long-wave radio waves wouldn't work anymore. Therefore, they had to use direct waves, which, however, don't have a long range. A better solution was the model of a distributed network. Thus, long distances could be covered with a minimum of interference. Another milestone followed with the development of the French network Cyclades. Since Cyclades had a far smaller budget than ARPANET, and thus also fewer nodes, the focus was laid on the communication with other networks. In this way, the term Internet was born. Moreover, Cyclades' concept went further than ARPA's and the MPL's. During communication between sender and receiver, the computers were not to intervene anymore, but simply serve as a transfer node. Cyclades' protocol went through all machines using a physical layer that was implemented into the hardware, providing a direct connection with the receiver, an end-to-end structure. Inspired by the Cyclades network and driven by the incompatibility between the networks, their connection gained in importance everywhere. The phone companies developed the X.25 protocol, which enabled communication through their servers, in exchange for a monthly basic charge, of course. DARPA's transmission control protocol was to connect the computers through gateways. And the International Organization for Standardization designed the OSI reference model. The innovation of OSI was the attempt to standardize the network from its ends, and the channel's division into separate layers. Finally, the TCP assimilated the preferences of the OSI reference model and gave way to the TCP/IP protocol, a standard which guaranteed compatibility between networks, and finally merged them, creating the Internet. By February the 28th, 1990, the ARPANET hardware was removed, but the Internet was up and running.
That's your internet. That's where it comes from. And like all the things that like you go away, Sprite. Great. Will o' the Wisps. All the things that you might take for granted, and then the world ended, that you might take for granted in your use of the internet. Like you may or may not have used the term TCP/IP, or the concept of packet switching without knowing what any of the origins of those terms, and there it was. Like that's where all that comes from. And then when was the .com bubble? Because that was the first time the internet died. And then the modern internet rose from the ashes of this, like Phoenix? So the .com bubble, the late 1990s. And again, this is about that resource distribution, right? Like Okay, in 2000 was the dot-com bubble burst. So the 1993 release of Mosaic and subsequent web browsers during the following years gave computer users access to the World Wide Web, popularizing the use of the internet. Internet use increased as a result of the reduction of the digital divide and advances in connectivity, uses of the internet, and computer education. Between 1990 and 1997, the percentage of households in the United States owning computers increased from 15% to 35% as computer ownership progressed from a luxury to a new necessity. This marked the shift to the information age, an economy based on information technology, and many new companies were founded. At the same time, a decline in interest rates increased the availability of capital. The Taxpayer Relief Act of 1997, which lowered the top marginal capital gains tax in the United States, so that's great, also made people more willing to make more speculative investments. Alan Greenspan, then chair of the Federal Reserve, allegedly fueled investments in the stock market by putting a positive spin on stock valuations. The Telecommunications Act of 1996 was expected to result in many new technologies from which many people wanted to profit. So then this resulted in all, like, in the same way, like, you're probably more familiar with, like, the crypto bubble, right? It functioned in that same way. There's the FOMO when it comes to the next big thing in investing. And people went wild. Right? Like in 1999, shares of Qualcomm rose in value by 2,619%. 12 others by 1,000% in value. And 7 additional, 900% in value. This should tell you that there's a problem, right? Nothing should go up that fast. Most .com companies incurred net operating losses, still to this day, as they spent heavily on advertising and promotions to harness network effects to build market share or mind share as fast as possible, using the mottos get big fast and get large or get lost. These companies offered their services and products for free or at a discount with the expectation that they could build enough brand awareness to charge profitable rates for their services in the future. The growth over profits mentality and the aura of new economy invincibility led some companies to engage in lavish spending on elaborate business facilities and luxury vacations for employees. Upon the launch of a new product or website, a company would organize an expensive event called a .com party. Does that sound anything like the crypto bubble? Partially a result of greed and excessive optimism. That is indicative of a lot of these things. And then there was, I don't know how many of you are old enough to know about Y2K, right? Y2K was a thing where basically the calendars inside the computers were not capable of I'll let Wiki say it better. Many programs represented 4-digit years with only the final 2 digits, making the year 2000 indistinguishable from 1900. computer systems' inability to distinguish dates correctly had the potential to bring down worldwide infrastructure for industries ranging from banking to air travel. Yeah. So you have this, this .com bubble, and then you have this Y2K end of the world. Do I have a video on that? I think I do. Hold up. We'll see how long it is. I'm pretty sure it's right here in this list. Like the glitch, it's 43 minutes. So that's like a hour and a half to 2 hours streamer time. But I'll put it in the Discord. It's called The Glitch That Broke America. But yeah, you got the Y2K thing. So here's an example. Incorporate this into your thinking in the same way that the issue of data sets with machine learning is going to produce, results. You had people creating something on which the economies of countries and businesses and all sorts of crazy crap were being built, and nobody had checked for this, which turned out to be like a very basic but potentially highly damaging issue. And then, we worked. And it has a bit of problem, allegedly. Maybe the world ended. Difficult to really know. But this factor is something that has been here from the beginning. There's a myopic view that can come with, let's say, excessive amounts of drive, right? If you are so focused on a particular goal, then you end up with blinders on. You end up with tunnel vision. So like you can see how you want things to go, and you might miss important details. This is the same thing that is happening in regards to our plans around the creation of AI and machine learning. And by the same token, we are not, we're trying to fix and patch as opposed to reworking from the ground up. Because again, once you hit the point where you have these highly distributed models, they become the standard, and people don't want to start over. They want to move forward. And then, we had United States versus Microsoft, which ruled that Microsoft was doing a monopoly, and like allegedly they did something which changed that. I don't know how what Microsoft was doing can't be applied to Amazon, but we don't do that shit around here anymore, right? We don't break up monopolies. We just kind of roll with them. Because it's bad for business and something. So you had these companies that were growing, spending lavishly, and dependent on venture capital and angel investors and all that crap. then once that shit dried up, everything fucking collapsed. The dot-com company's lifespan was measured by its burn rate, the rate at which it spent its existing capital. Many dot-com companies ran out of capital and went through liquidation. Supporting industries such as advertising and shipping scaled back their operations as demand for services fell. However, many companies were able to endure the crash. 48% of dot-com companies survived through 2004, albeit at lower valuations. This is an incredibly positive view of what happened. Another person might say over 50% of dot-com companies went out of business. And then, of course, misleading investors, Merrill Lynch, Citigroup, all that good crap. Same bullshit, different episode. And then I might be being hyperbolic when I say it killed the internet. Why did that look like a fucking mugshot? Oh, great. So several companies and their executives, including Jeffrey Skilling, best known as the CEO of Enron. We all love Enron. Sentenced to 24 years in prison. This is another rare moment, is actually sending CEOs to prison for stuff. Kenneth Lay, that guy. Bernard John Ebbers was a Canadian businessman, the co-founder and CEO of WorldCom, and a convicted fraudster. Way to bury the lead. What saved the internet was, again, the fact that it had a certain amount of ubiquitousness at that point. Number of computers in homes by year. Yeah. Eat your cookies. So, like, 2000, 2001, this is when the bubble burst. You've already hit 50% of homes. So now it's like you have the infrastructure required in order to reach consumers. So this is why it was able to survive. Had this not happened, then yeah, the internet would have been dead at that point in time, because again, the investment wasn't there. It could have come back, like machine learning was dead in 1973 and it came back. But only the people who loved it would have kept it going. Yeah. Yeah, like 1984, so I was 12, and I think that's when they were sending out the Macs. Macintosh. Yeah, like literally 1984. It had this ad. I can show you the ad. It's short. Macintosh 1984.
Today we celebrate the first glorious
Kinda dank.
anniversary of the Information Purification Directives. You created, for the first time in all history, a garden of pure ideology, where each worker may bloom, secure from the pests, obeying contradictory thoughts. Completion of thoughts is more powerful a weapon than any fleet or army on earth. We are one people, with one will, one resolve, one cause. Our enemies shall talk themselves to death, and we will bury them with their own confusion. We shall prevail.
On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh. And you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
Like, yo. That shit was wild. So yeah, and they were like this bad boy over here with Steve Jobs, right? They would get these into people's hands so that they could like basically sell them to other people. Not sell them, but like advertise them for it. And it was kind of cool because I got to use, look at this mouse. Look at the size of this Hawking mouse. You got the Mr. Burns hands. And it was cool. Like this was a whole thing, Oh, I gotta rewatch Lane. Lane is so good. Lane also featured on one of my favorite AMVs of all time. I can't remember what it was, but I just remember loving it so much. So yeah, 1984, 8.2%. 1997, 36.6%. And then 51%. And after that, like, it's done. It's over. And now we're at like almost 90% of homes in 2016. So this is what allowed the internet to happen. The backbone of it, which was created by the consumers having access to a port into it, right? A gateway into it. And then in phone usage, the nature of the smartphone has done this same thing again. So the only thing we can hope for is that there are people out there who care enough about building good data sets for AI to work off of to create machine learning and AI from what we would consider good data sets, which then create better models, which then outcompete the existing models in the marketplace, so on and so forth. Because again, it's that motivation. What was that? What did I go into? Or did I not go into? Any more words? I really want to dive into who is actually running the current AI models. This is a good question to ask. And the other thing, and why I'm looking forward to having people like Greg on tomorrow, Corey Campbell on Friday, is because they use different kinds of AI that we're not using, right? Like they use them on a professional basis, and I need that data in order to be able to like compare what kind of things are happening in these different fields. Because one of the things is like, you know, Chat GPT is very specific. Midjourney is very specific in what they do. It's when we start getting some kind of crossover and blending of these different technologies that you know, there will be additional potential for something else, right? Like the more like, okay, Midjourney, you have to use very specific cues in order to get, you know, to aim for specific outcomes, and you can't get exactly what you want. You're basically asking and hoping for the best. To be able to speak to it more naturally and like be able to continue on with like more granular control, you know, it's like, okay, you know, give me alien angels, and it gives me a bunch of alien angels, and then I pick one of those, and then like can we, you know, like the computer enhanced shit, you know, let's brighten this up by 15%. Can we change the palette to, you know, green as opposed to blue? You know, these kind of things. And then like I don't know that there's ever going to come a point where people who are adamantly against AI art, because of that, the back end idea that AI art, the AI is sampling from their art somehow, and they are never going to get past that they should get compensation for it using their art as inspiration, which is functionally what it does. Something that would absolutely be forgiven of a person, they wouldn't accept copying. Fair enough. But if a person said that they were very inspired by their art and they were producing art, then other than people who feel like other artists are direct competition to them, they are going to generally view that favorably, where AI does functionally the same thing. They are going to reject that. But if like people who like there's a gulf of difference between my ability to use a Photoshop type system and Alina's ability to use a Photoshop type system. There's a huge gulf between us. And there is a tremendous amount of work that goes into Alina getting the results that they want out of that system. Can you, I think you can, make the argument that if you work with the AI enough and have a more detailed level of control of what it does, do you eventually get to a similar point to what people who use, you know, a Photoshop type system are at as far as a digital artist, where all I'm not doing is actually like physically using my hands to create the picture through mouse or tablet or what have you, but I use like a speech recognition program and a chat GPT style text analyzer, which then takes me to the Midjourney style art app, and it does the things that I want. If you integrate all that together, then do you eventually get to the point where artists would regard it as a tool on that same playing field? I don't know, but it'll be here in the VOD once we get to that point. Problem is that people are making money with AI models are shitlords. Yes, the resource distribution issue from earlier is always going to be a problem no matter what you do. The question is, if, let's say for argument's sake, that Midjourney was invented actually in a garage, actually by a couple of code monkeys, and they did the same thing where they were like, I think we can make money with this, and then they set it up to do the exact same thing, right? It's the exact same everything, other than instead of being controlled by a corporation, it was controlled by two code monkeys in a garage. Would it fundamentally change how the artist felt about the device itself, the AI itself? I wouldn't blame any of the artists for shitting on their AIs. I don't use the word blame. I'm like, when you get into the material analysis of why people feel the way that they do about the thing, then there's no room for blaming the artists or the people who use the AI art devices in order to create art that they couldn't create without it. It is just another iteration of people in their conditions doing something. Yeah, I don't mean the users as much as the people charging to use the AI. And if they were using their profits to give back to the artists they're displacing, right? Well, would they? I mean, the idea that somehow two code monkeys in a garage would be somehow more altruistic than a corporation is questionable at best, right? Code monkeys in a garage obviously want resources in order to make more code monkey things, and to do that they are going to sell their product. And there is an argument that people make that once you put something out on the internet, it's the meme argument, right? Like the people who like every so often I see someone talking about I should have put watermarks on my memes or whatever. It's like, have you ever once seen a watermark on a meme and then like Google search that shit to find out who fucking Fat Toad Monty on Instagram is because he created a meme that you liked? Or did you just click haha share and move on? The entire nature of the meme culture is to create something from the internet. There is those who are aggregators of that kind of stuff that people did at one time go to, I guess. And they're probably still out there doing something. But like the actual I don't believe that 9gag had people creating those memes. I feel like, and I could be wrong, but I feel like a 9gag just grabbed a meme, did some meme colonialism, right? Like you made a meme and you didn't put a watermark on it, so we're going to put 9gag on it. It's ours now. We claim this land in the name of Spain, so like, I mean, Elon does it all the time. There's a whole meme around Elon stealing a headline and turning it into a meme, and it's not a meme and all that crap. So I'm not saying that meme culture is not complex. I should probably go big since I'm just doing the talking now and not doing the video. So the nature of meme culture, as I understand it, is that you create something. It's very socialist. It's very communist. Our memes, right? Like you make something and you put it out there, and if the people like it, then they use it. And your reward is that you get to see your meme in other places, and your super big time reward is when there are memes based on the meme that you created, you know? Like there's the Drake meme with the, you know, and then the point, and then there's the Jordy meme, which does the exact same thing, but it uses Jordy. That is a level of like, if you were the first person to do the Drake meme, and then you see the Jordy meme, then that's good for you. You know, it's like, yeah, but you're not getting a reward otherwise. You're not getting financially compensated for the creation of memes. Because when you put, I mean, it tends to be low effort, you know, content. Memes should probably take you like, you know, a few minutes to create. But by the same token, when you put them on the internet is the act of giving it to the people, right? So the argument is that when you put I mean, this is the whole thing about NFTs, right? They created these NFTs, and it's look at my NFT. I got this. I own it. It's mine. I paid $10,000 for this bored monkey, and then like I copy pasted it, and it's mine now. Okay, and that's okay to shit on NFT people for that reason, as I am given to understand from the general community, right? If you are not on Team NFT, then it is okay to steal the bored monkey and turn it into your own picture and laugh at the people who paid $10,000 for it. How is that functionally different from the people or from the AI using your art as inspiration because you put it on the internet like that? I was thinking the other day too that I could literally spend 8 hours a day going through Twitter, Pixiv, ArtStation, and constantly encounter new art completely for free for like years. I mean, I used to be a huge fan of DeviantArt for exactly that reason. Like I would cruise DeviantArt because there were people doing cool ass shit. And if you want a picture on the internet, you click snipping tool or screen cap or however you want to go about it, and now you have that piece of art. You didn't compensate that artist. Just be fair. You don't have to report back to me. I'm not the arbiter. I'm not the judge. I'm not judging you for it. Anything, but just look at your goddamn phone. Look at your goddamn PC files. Find the number of pieces of art that you just gripped off the internet without compensating the artist, and think about that. And then if I find a piece of art and it's created by someone, let's say in California, and I run off a bunch of shirts with their piece of art on it, and I sold them in my store, I should be compensating that artist. But I guarantee you that shit is happening, and the artist is not getting compensated. And people have a variety of different feelings around that kind of stuff. Like if I made a t-shirt for me based on a piece of art that I found out on the internet and didn't compensate anybody but made a t-shirt and I made it for me, most people would generally feel that that was okay. There are some altruists, like absolutists, who would say, no, you should have bought it from the t-shirt people. I literally have a shirt that my friend made me because I liked a thing on the internet and I thought it was cool, and I was like, it's my Civil War Champions, the North t-shirt that I wear. That's not, I didn't buy that from like T Public or whatever. A friend of mine silk screened that because he's got a setup. I mean, I want everyone to do well, you know what I mean? But like, my friend could have paid the $20 to order the t-shirt, and then the artist would have gotten $5-10 or whatever they get out of that. But my friend made me a shirt. You know? Now, what if you got a group of friends and you all make matching shirts? Whether it's because you hang out every Friday and you go out to the bar or whatever. Any excuse you might have for wanting a uniform, you know what I mean? Like something that matches with all your people. Is that a bridge too far? It's just something to think about. Like where do you mark the line in the sand for not compensating the artist? Because the government and copyright is like the whole thing around copyright. Like the original move with sharing movies and music was like, well, I don't get paid anything for it. I just share it, right? So then they changed that to say including like distribution without compensation. Excuse me. You could do that, but then the inclusion of the Twitter profile could disrupt the aesthetic of the shirt, right? Of the art on the shirt. Because fun fact, a watermark actually makes me less likely to share the meme because it's not part of the art. What up, Tasteless? Welcome in. You know, it's like there is I have more followers or more people watching the stream than when I started, so I'm going to call it good. So, like, when you create something, there's a boundary between the thing that you created and the rest of the world. And to include a piece of the rest of the world within the thing that you created changes the thing that you created. You know, if you've got this canvas and you hit it out of the park and it is vibrant and it is stunning and it makes you feel stuff, and then other people see it and it makes them feel stuff, and it's like, yeah. And then over the top of the bottom right corner, it says, follow me at joeschmuck.twitter.5. fuckyou.com. That detracts from the art that you're trying to create. You know? I trust me, I understand what you're saying. I completely buy it. We do, right? Like I hesitate to use the term devil's advocate, but I am, dancing around these things just to make people think about how they feel about the things, right? Like to really is it just because it's your art that's threatened, or is it because there is something more to it? Like just thinking about the things, right? Like, because we do draw lines. I don't like sign 100%. I never sign my fucking work. I don't like signing my work because it does look bad on the art, but I don't want people to take credit for my shit. Right. Like, I completely agree. When you put something on the internet that other people have a way of accessing, they could take it. Right? Like we were just talking with the Bored Ape stuff. And in the conditions of crypto bros who paid $10,000 for a picture of a bored ape, this is generally viewed as an okay thing to do. To steal the art that they paid for. But that to take from an artist and copy directly, then it becomes a problem. So what is the difference there that makes one relatively socially acceptable and the other one not? Is it the character of the person behind the thing? Would it be okay to go to Bored Ape, whatever that was, like however you do that, and take directly from the artist who created it? In the same way that you could take it directly from the dude who paid $10,000 for it. What defines the ethics of the situation where one is socially acceptable and the other one is not? I think as an artist, I would want to leave the line open for communication. I want people to know I made my art because I want to hear what people think about it. I do too, because like, as I said before, like I put everything into the piece and then don't define the piece at all for people, right? Like, I want them to look at it and get something from it as devoid from my inclusion into it as possible. Like, I'm an anti-artist in that regard. We're assuming this is in a world where I'm not relying on my art for income. And I mean that, like, really, how much of this comes back to that as a concept? If you don't have to use art for survival, how does that change your opinion of it? I mean, like, to be honest, like, I want people to enjoy that the art I create, I want them to enjoy it. But like, there. So I've got this severe kind of thing around it. It's like I create it, and it takes as long as it takes, and then I'm done with it, and then I hope someone buys it. And if they buy it, it's great, and I hope they're happy with it, and I hope they have, that it changes the space, and I hope they have a wonderful experience. But I'm done. I have broken up with that girlfriend. We are not dating anymore. So I don't care how they're doing, kind of thing. So, like, I don't. It's weird. Like, because it's not that I do care, but I just don't want to know about it. What the fuck is that? What kind of like nihilistic empathy is that kind of fucking thing? That's me. I have nihilistic empathy. I want you to be good, but I really don't give a fuck. Oh. This is the real talk. Like, in case you don't know by now, on this channel, everything is an experiment, and a lot of this has to do with like me working through my own shit over here. There's funny in Levelheads chat a few days ago. Somebody said something like that. There's a thing. I don't know how you would define it, but there's a thing where, like, from your point of view, there is actually only one person in the universe, and it's you, and everyone else is just kind of like a manifestation of the external. And like, this is Twitch is like that writ large, is like, y'all could be highly advanced chatbots that like react to things that I do, and I'm like living in a fantasy world. I don't believe that, especially because some of you have voices and I've heard them. But any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And if you're living in a simulation, how would you actually know? Yeah, I don't think I have anything. I don't think I have anything else today. As I said, your boy is tired, so some of this might be sleep deprivation. I don't know. But I'm not. So one of the things that I do, okay, more content because Alina is good at that. So one of the things I do, like when I want to go to sleep at night, I take a time released melatonin and I bust out my tablet and I read comic books off either the Marvel app or the DC app. And one of the series I've been reading lately is called Hellblazer. It's John Constantine. There's the movie Constantine with Keanu Reeves. There's also a John Constantine character featured in what's that fucking show that I love? I can't remember the name of. Legends of Tomorrow. Thank you. DC's Legends of Tomorrow has John Constantine in it. And the John Constantine in DC's Legends of Tomorrow is a more generally accurate character than Keanu Reeves, but Keanu Reeves hits very specific beats of John Constantine, which is why I'm glad there's a Constantine 2 coming out starring Keanu Reeves. But anyways, the point is, I'm reading this series, and Constantine goes to India, and it was nice. One of the things that was nice is hanging out with Arun. I've learned like some, at least the pronunciation of certain words and how words should sound and like that, and whether or not, like, I felt like I had a service level ability to judge whether or not the comic books were being like culturally insensitive, and I don't think they were. I think they were like good in that regard, which was nice. But there's this one character that Constantine interacts with while he's over in India, and that character says that we don't even exist. How can we have free will? Right? So like, I'm trying to go to sleep, and then now I've got that going on. So when you say, I don't know if I have free will either way, it's like, do we even exist? And yeah, free will is not only like questionable on its face, but like, how would you know? How would you know if you have free will? Does it make a difference if you don't know? If you think you have free will, isn't that the same as having free will? But I feel like that is another question for another time. We'll see if this works. Boop. Okay. Yeah. We're going to raid Levelhead. This was a good time. Make sure you come back tomorrow. We're going to talk to Greg, the Algae Christ, real scientist. Awesome shit. It was always a pleasure talking to you, Alina. Like, real talk. You're one of my favorite people on the platform, and you know this. So, drink your water. And the people on the VOD, you can come visit. Drink your water, eat your food, take your meds. Shaggy loves you. So do I.